In a soon-to-be-published book, President Obama's former auto czar, Stephen Ratner, confirms that he asked Carlos Ghosn, the CEO of both Renault and Nissan, to leave those automakers to run the ailing General Motors. Ghosn, he says, not only declined, but actually resurrected an old suggestion that General Motors become part of the Renault-Nissan alliance. Now, what part of the story is more puzzling to you? That the U.S. needed a Brazilian-born, Lebanese-raised head of a Japanese-French auto alliance to save GM? Or that Carlos Ghosn turned the offer down, suggesting instead that GM be merged into the Renault-Nissan empire? Well, if you know Carlos Ghosn, and I do, none of that is all that surprising. Despite recent struggles with his companies, Carlos Ghosn remains the wonder kid of the auto world. He's the head of Renault-Nissan, an alliance of two large automakers in two different continents. In recent years, he's been approached to run Ford, Chrysler, even Fiat. But he has shunned those offers, preferring to stay focused on the system that he built at Renault-Nissan. So if he is so smart, what does he say the solution is for today's global auto industry? Let's ask him directly. Carlos Ghosn joins me now from Amsterdam. Carlos, thank you for being with us. Good to see you again. Let me start with the obvious question. If this is true, what Stephen Ratner says in his book, first of all, is it true? And if it is, why did you say no?
It is true. Well, first, I proposed again what I believe in, that General Motors should join the alliance and share with the synergies that we could develop. And he said that he would not see this happening, but on the contrary, he proposed for me to take the job as CEO of General Motors, and I declined. And I declined for a very simple reason. As you know, at that moment, and we're still are in one of the worst downturn that the auto industry has faced in its history, and I felt that, I can't quit. I am responsible for Nissan and Renault, and particularly whenever you are in the middle of a storm, you are in charge, you have to deliver, you have to get the company out of the storm. So it was not the time to leave my present responsibilities.
Americans will remember back a few years ago, before the worst of what hit the auto industry happened, Kirk Kerkorian had recommended that GM bring you in. You've sort of been on this for a while, the idea that you'd like an American partner in this whole thing. Now, you run two car companies on two different continents. I don't even want to begin to know what your schedule is like. What would this do for Renault and Nissan? What would it do for an American automaker to be part of this worldwide alliance?
When we made a study with General Motors, between Renault-Nissan and General Motors in 2006, and we were just analyzing to see what was on the table for us if we were to join forces, the amount of synergies that we were able to identify was really colossal. It was colossal. Obviously, we had the challenge to make them happen, respecting the autonomy and the differentiation between each company. But this was the trigger. This was really the motivation for us, is to be able, each one being in its own turf, to add to the profit and add to the competitiveness of each company.
Okay, the government said no to that, and I don't know whether that was because of the times we were in, or as Stephen Ratner says in his book, there was too much overlap. So do you think that can still work?
No, I don't think anything like this can work unless there is a mutual appetite. I don't believe in mergers. I believe more in alliances. And for alliances to work, you need to have people from both sides convinced that this is the right thing to do. As long as one of the partners is not convinced, it's going to stop there.
Tell me what you think then, because you have been invited in the past to join Ford and run it. You've been invited to join Chrysler. Now Chrysler is owned by Fiat. You've been invited to join that. Now we find out you were invited to join and run General Motors. What is the state of the auto industry in the United States?
Well, I think it's recovering slowly but surely. I think we are much better today than we were, obviously, 2 years ago. The recovery is not as strong as we would like it to be, but I think it's steadily getting there. I think this year the industry is going to be around 11.5 million cars, so it's up compared to last year. And I think 2011 see another year of growth. So I'm reasonably optimistic on the fact that we're getting out of the crisis.
Let's talk about the Leaf, because we're expecting to see this now end of this year, beginning of next year. Do you think this is a real corner that we're turning with the Leaf and the Chevy Volt into electric cars? Do you think that we're going to be in a world a few years down the road where there's a mass market for electric cars and everybody's driving them and plugging them in wherever we go?
Well, I think it's going to take a long time, Ali. I think, our forecast that in 10 years, 10% of the total sales globally will be made by zero-emission cars, which are electric car for the moment, because it requires a lot of investment. The technology is going to have to continue to develop a lot. But there is today a very strong spontaneous demand for the electric car. We're going to start to mass market the Leaf in December in the United States and in Japan. We have already a lot of hand raisers. We're very optimistic, but it's going to be a long road for this technology to be a dominant technology. I think we're talking about 20 or 30 years.
Listen, you have a remarkable advantage, having been born in Brazil, working in Asia for much of your time. The U.S. remains the dominant automobile marketplace in the world, but it is not the fastest growing marketplace in the world. I know you've just signed an agreement to build a car, a specific Chinese-branded car, a joint venture in China. Tell me where this auto industry is going and how that is going to affect my viewers now, Americans, in terms of the design and the price and the type of cars they drive.
Well, I think the U.S. is going to remain a very important market for all car makers, even though, emerging markets are going to be the main engine of growth, particularly China, but not only China. You can add India and Brazil and Russia. But the U.S. is still going to be a very important force for us, which means that when we will design cars, we'll still take mainly in consideration what the U.S. consumer wants and what are the important features for the U.S. consumer. Now, the difference with the past is before, we're taking mainly in consideration the U.S. consumer, the Japanese consumer, or the European consumer. Now we have to take in consideration the Chinese consumer, who is really one of the dominant forces of this industry. China became the largest market in the world last year, and I think this is going to continue to be the case for the years to come.
I'm going to get you back sometime, and we're going to have a conversation on how to get job offers, because there's always rumors surrounding you. The latest rumor is that Tata Group of India, which owns Land Rover and Jaguar and inexpensive cars, wants you to come and run Tata Group. Is that true?
No, I think this is speculation, Ali. This one is not true. But, as long as the successor or the so-called successor of Ratan Tata has not been designated, I'm expecting a lot of rumors to fly around this.
Very good. Good to talk to you. We look forward to seeing you again. Maybe we'll see you in Detroit for the auto show, and we can take a spin around in a Leaf when you're in the United States.
Exactly. Thank you, Ali.